those two souls don't have this.
Ifa. If you're sitting in a therapist's office and she is pulling down information that she is remembering from textbooks or classes or even her experience in the field, it may apply, it may be helpful, but it's not Ifa.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say was, the general rule of thumb is that everybody walks with a different charge. So who your Baba is not who your therapist is. So just fundamentally, they're going to work with two different sources of information. But to heal is to heal, and to give somebody closure is to give them closure. And that's what I mean, that there's going to be some similarities between the experience that you're providing for the person, because there is a component of all of these practices that it brings a therapeutic feeling for the client. And so you can't just tell somebody to pray and give them a bath. They actually also have to do the work as well. Part of getting the reading is actively listening, which is, to me, doing the work as well.
Mm-hmm. It's part of it.
It's probably the easiest part of the work,
mm-hmm.
But it's doing the work. It was making me think, how initiation helps you is, to that point where, using EFOC-based concepts where somebody has an Ori that may be afflicted, and you need to be in contact with someone that is experienced who can see your Ori, tell you what brought about the affliction, and then how it can be healed, and they will hold your hand through your healing process, which is much different than what you'll get in therapy, because you think about the types of contact that you can have with your godfather or godmother versus the types of contact that you can have with your therapist. Can you call your therapist at 2 a.m. in the morning and ask them for some advice about something that you saw or something that you heard? You have somebody that is willing and authorized to assist you. But in the context of what else, how does initiation help you? The baths or the head cleansings are specifically made so that you can purify yourself and feel more imbalanced. Sometimes you are walking with too much of one energy. You may have too much of Baron's energy with you, and you are having all these outbursts. You are hearing everybody's business in your ears, and then somehow telling everybody's business, not knowing what you're talking about, or people say you're talking crazy around them. And so you need that bath to cool your head because your head is too hot. Or you may need that spiritual bath to prepare you to receive another loa, so that you can feel more balanced. Because sometimes we walk too closely to the energy that is our patron energy. Yeah. And we have to depend on energies that are more distant from us so that we can balance those things out. And so in that instance, a therapist may say to you that you need to spend less time doing this, more time doing this, and the proportional translation of that would be, spend less time with this energy, more time with this energy. Here are some baths that you can do, which are basically, where the therapist would tell you to take prescription medicine. We're going to prescribe traditional holistic solutions to your problem. And we know that these solutions work. And in addition to that, these solutions don't come with any negative side effects, such as you taking the medication, and the medication may sedate you. It may cause you to have more paranormal experiences. It
might damage your liver, for example, wreak havoc on your body, on your organ systems.
Right. And so you can avoid all of that by choosing to initiate. And in choosing to initiate, you're going to be introduced to a community of people that are going to support you. I was saying to Osun this weekend that we're going to talk about this in a second, for people that may have an addiction. I think that it is important to if you have an addiction, I do think it's important for you to, mix and mingle with everybody in your house. But I also think that it's important for you to go see an addiction awareness group and be around other addicts as well. Be around people that are addicted and healing through their addiction, but also be around people that are healers and that understand your issue in the context of your life path, not in the context of you are in the context of your life path, not in the context of your family pathology, if that makes sense. So, I don't know how it would go, but I'm just making this up as I go. Somebody may give you a reading in E5, for example, and they say, well, right now, the spirits are testing you and they're trying to see, they're testing you via the energy of temptation. And right now, there's a lot of things that you're tempted with doing, and perhaps, you need to figure out where your priorities lie. And so you are addicted to some sort of substance, and that is distracting you from, working on this business. So you need to be around other people that are going to tell you, hey, focus on this business. Put that energy there. Work with this particular deity, because they're going to help. They're going to help ease this healing process for you, versus somebody that's telling you, well, you're in step 6 of this 12-step process. So with that being said, how do you think that initiation can help people that deal with an addiction, any form of addiction? You can pick a form of addiction that you've, seen people get help with too.
So I'll give you an example. When one initiates into Ifa, you are, among many other pieces of information, you are given what we call taboos. Okay. Dietary taboos. There are also behavioral taboos, but I'm speaking specifically about taboos that have to do with food that one consumes. Now, depending on who the babalawo is that initiates you, or the house that you initiate into, or that particular tradition, you may or may not be given a robust explanation of why that taboo is a taboo. But for every Odu, and an Odu is basically a code to one's destiny. Everybody has one, right? And it's a combination of the 256 Odus. Okay, coming back. You are given, when you initiate, the taboos that are associated with your particular Odu. And these taboos are things that you mustn't eat. Okay? Doesn't matter how much you like them. It doesn't matter how they are mixed into foods and how difficult it is to avoid them. It doesn't matter if you've been eating them all your life up until the day you initiate. Once you initiate, you are no longer allowed to partake of your taboos. Okay? For some people, those taboos might look like eggs. You can't eat eggs, for example. Another person may not be able to eat chicken. Another person may not be able to eat beans of any kind, okay? Another person, their taboo might be bread, okay? The overarching theory or understanding, actually, it's not a theory, the overarching understanding of taboos is that these food substances create a reaction in your body, in your physical body, that betray your body in some way, okay? It causes a reaction in your body that is not good for your health on one front. On the other, there's something about it that is offensive to the spirits that reside in you, the Orisha that walk with you, okay? And so either way, you should avoid them at all costs. To connect that to addiction, it could be, and this is just me saying this, okay? But it could be that it would be revealed in one's initiation process that they should avoid a particular thing because, for example, a person who has bread as a taboo, we know that carbohydrates act upon people differently. And for some people, carbohydrates, especially simple carbohydrates, things like pasta and white bread, and simple sugar, it causes a release in the brain of, what are they called? Feel goods, the feel good,
The nervous system.
but the actual, it's not endorphins. It causes a release in the body that affects the pleasure centers, which causes us to crave more of that substance. So a person who has a sugar addiction is going to want, the more sugar they eat, the more sugar they're going to need. And we know that starches turn into sugar in our body. So the point that I'm trying to make is that through initiation, all kinds of things will be revealed to a person that will help them live better and help them to avoid pitfalls. IFA is far more scientific than it's given credit for. Within IFA, you have understanding of nutrition. And not just nutrition, but macro and micronutrients, okay? What I just described about the taboo is based on 30,000 years worth of understanding how food affects the body of particular. Greetings, I am Reverend Priestess Osun Funke, and I would like to personally invite you to apply for my mentorship program. The title of the program is Introduction to Pan-African Witchcraft. You can apply by visiting www.blackspectrumnetwork.com. People based on when they are born and what their Odu is. You get what I'm saying? Ifa has an understanding of what type of personality traits a person would have. You know, Ifa is philosophy and nutrition and medicine and science and astrology and all of these things, physics. And so I think that when you initiate, you have access to all of that knowledge and all of those understandings created by a people similar to yourself, for people similar to yourself. And I think it's just better able to address whatever issues you have, physical, spiritual, emotional, or otherwise. Ifa is great, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I can just tell you that essentially what she's saying is that within the system of E5, there are certain rules that govern people's behavior, and once you initiate into E5, you're gonna have to modify your behavior. Rules are put in place to keep rules are put in place so that there will be no chaos in society. So if you're given rules about your body and how you're supposed to take care of it, if you follow those rules, you won't experience chaos from within.
Mm-hmm.
So if you eat the wrong foods, if you do the wrong things, you're going to experience some form of chaos or dysfunction internally, and then you're going to act out on it. So the next question is, let's talk about self-initiations. How do you feel about people initiating themselves to heal their mental illness? So here's some examples. Someone can go online and initiate into E5 like a lot of people do, and they can heal their illness. They may.
But you can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
They may.
You can't go online and initiate into
They said
E5.
yes. They said they can.
Okay.
And so then someone may create their own initiation and say that they've healed themselves of their mental illness.
I do believe it's possible to heal oneself. I think that that the mind is very, very powerful, and the mind controls the body. And so if you are able to control your mind, you can control your body. I think that it's possible to heal oneself. So in that regard, I think it's possible. But you cannot actually self-initiate, because it is implied in the question. An initiation is a predetermined, prescribed way of doing a particular thing. It's a prescribed, it's a specific way or specific series of things that one goes through and then comes out on the other side of that changed, okay? And so I guess you can create your own initiation and initiate yourself into whatever you want to, but you can't initiate yourself into a system that is tied to a culture that is tied to very specific rituals and process. You can't do it. It's offensive, insensitive, and ridiculous to say that you can.
Okay, so for the mentally ill people that's self-initiated in the E5, they're probably still mentally ill. Unless they heal themselves.
Unless they heal themselves. And we do know that the Orisha walk with individuals even when they are unaware of it. And we know that the ancestors are with us working on our behalf at all times. So it could very well be that they were able to tap into some of that good Orisha energy, and that they were led by good, strong ancestors to do and think in a particular way that would allow them to heal their body. I do believe that that is possible. But at the same time, I would say, I'm happy for your healing. I rejoice with you in regard to your healing, but now let's do it the way it's always been done. Let's make your ancestors proud. Let's do an Isheshe, which means traditional Ifa initiation. Let's take it a step further. You'll be even better. If you're good now, you'll be even better.
So what's your opinion of self-initiations in general?
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it? Why is that?
I don't buy it because we do not have the framework. We've been cut off from our traditions for so long. And so much of what we have come to believe about our traditions, I'm thinking specifically about voodoo and vodun, for example, so much of that has been bastardized, has been finessed by Hollywood, has been ripped apart and mass marketed to us. I don't believe that a descendant of the diaspora is equipped with the discernment or the tools necessary to filter through all of that gunk and initiate themselves. I don't believe it. I think that there's going to be too much noise in the background from society, from how we were raised and by whom we were influenced. Too much misinformation. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's possible.
I don't think it's possible either. Because I'm not. I can just tell you in Haitian voodoo, I don't know how you do it by yourself, because
that's the other thing.
That's literally,
it requires a community.
It does, because it's like putting this bracelet on. It's like I had to lay down and like clasp it on because it was so hard to put it on. But I needed a second hand to do it. Now that was very possible, but I mean, there's some shit. It's just like you need multiple people to do this. There's no way in hell like one person. That's not physically possible, unless you got superpowers and you can multiply yourself.
Yeah. I mean, just the logistics of the initiation process, one person can't do it. Two people can't do it. It takes a whole community
of people.
It takes a whole community of people to make an initiation possible.
You asked me what was my opinion of Lone Witches this weekend.
I did.
Do you still want to know?
Nexo, what is your opinion of lone witches? I want to know. The people want to know.
Well, this is a brain dump. It's gonna take me a while to get this out, so y'all bear with me.
Let me make me another drink. I'm listening.
Let me talk about. Should I start with the good points or the bad points about Lone Witches first?
I'll just start. You gotta use both hands all the time.
I'll start with the. Let me start with the good thing about Lone Witches.
Okay.
So Lone Witches.
What is a lone witch?
Lone witch. Think of the word alone. Okay, lone, a loner. A lone witch is a magical practitioner who is not part of any of the major three organized religions, or they may be a part of the major three organized religions. Who knows?
They go to church.
But typically they won't be, and they are woke, like conscious, and they've learned magic and how to do it. And their magic is some form of, it's an offshoot of Wicca or root work, and this person may not be initiated. So the typical lone witch looks like someone that may be an African American person calling themselves a bruja. They're not initiated into anything, and they do spells and spell work, but yeah, that's the best way I can put it. They don't work in a community of people. They just do it by themselves. Now, the lone witch. Now, there were many lone witches, and they've always served in a very important role, because I was talking to Osun Funke about different types of black resistance movements, and particularly how during let's think about the Underground Railroad, for example, and how it was that we would have lone witches, living in random cabins along the Underground Railroad, and these women would pass out herbs they would pass out herbs and information about nature that would help people to make it to the north. So, for example, how did your ancestors learn how to get into a river? From that lone witch that said it fell on the back of the tree, and wherever you feel moss, that's going to tell you where the water is. Well, how is it that an enslaved person would cover their trails so that a bloodhound wouldn't capture them? Well, it was a lone witch that gave them a particular mixture of herbs. Usually, it had cayenne pepper or some other very spicy pepper in it. You put it on the ground as you walk, and then the bloodhound smells it, and their noses bleed. And that, lone witches were valuable. You can think of Harriet Tubman as a lone witch. After she got hit in the head with that goddamn brick, they said she had all types of premonitions. Okay? In addition to that, oils, herbs, potions, any of that rendered people invisible, that helped them to evade capture, those were lone witches. They were essentially uninitiated priestesses or priests that had learned Native American magic and substituted the herbs in Native American magic with their Africanized or Yorubanized spells. And then they brought those things together to create hoodoo.
But I feel like the...
Bonjour, I'm Pastor Dr. Quintari Shakir, otherwise known as Negrezo. If you can't get enough of our content for as little as $2 a month, you can get these and other videos at least 1 week ahead of their YouTube release date. That's www.patreon.com/Black Spectrum Network.
The fact that they were even taught by someone, the fact that they had a lineage, that someone, one of those enslaved ancestors of theirs, was able to spend enough time teaching them the little bit that they were able to. And then they were also able to spend enough time within a Native American community, working with those shaman and medicine men and women, enough to be able to put things together. I don't think that that's the same as the lone witch phenomena that we see today, where people are tapping in virtually to bodies of knowledge and traditions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think it's the same, because
I don't think so.
Whether you get the information orally, or because back then they didn't have computers, so you had to receive it. That's the only way that you could have gotten it, or you receive it digitally, which is basically a recording of the oral, verbal, or mental knowledge that people have. I think that it's still ancestrally informed.
You don't think that there was any oversight? You don't think there was any community building? Even the function of the Underground Railroad was that there were these little stops along the way, that it was a system that people went through. And so these people were talking to one another. They were involved with one another. They influenced and informed one another.
Yeah, I think I think definitely those things happen, but the purpose of advancing society is so that you can trim the fat. So I think of that as, they pressed the grapes that made the wine for what people read on the internet. But that being said, that's a lone witch. The opposite end of that spectrum, you have a lone witch that has consumed digitized information, that's not thinking about patternizing the information that they've learned and putting it in a larger context of an African oral tradition. People that consume the information, they are not sophisticated with how they deal with it. They do whatever they want to do. They don't think about ancestral worship. They don't think about kinship. They're essentially just culture vultures. I think that for the average lone witch of today, it is definitely possible, because I know some really good lone witches that have studied the textbooks and had some type of person-to-person contact at some point. But for the Dollar Tree priestess, that's the lone witch that needs the indictment. Somebody that that has their legacies and flaunts themselves as though they're an Ianifa. They don't know shit, and how do I feel about the long witch? Like I said, I feel that the long witch serves a necessary purpose in our community. It's a fixture that can represent two polarities. There's a polarity of optimism where you say to yourself, this is an emblem of some sort of feminism, or this is an emblem of who I could become or who I could be, the things that I could learn. I think that to make the connection between the lone witches of today and the ones in the past, I definitely think that's a very sanitized analysis. So let me say that. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, the reality of what a lone witch is someone that's ignorant of magical theory, metaphysical knowledge, ancestral tradition. But that's all to say that a lone witch, in its fundamental definition, is simply just a lone practitioner, a practitioner of any type of alchemy that does it on their own. I think it serves a necessary purpose. What do you think?
Well, I think that I am a priestess and not a witch, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know a whole lot about witchness, okay? I don't know if there are certain, and I do actually know that there are certain tenets that they're supposed to live by, certain understandings that women of the craft are supposed to observe, and that would form a loose kind of a community. And so
fuel my fire, take me higher, I'll be your liar too. 'Cause when we're here, there's nothing better than the skyline view. Ooh, I love this skyline.